the double waters. That's great. Good afternoon, Chautauqua. I'm Rob Wilson Black, Director of Religion at the Chautauqua Institution. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Hall of Philosophy for Day 2 of Week 5 of the 2026 Interfaith Lecture Series. Before introducing today's speaker, Michael Strautmanis, I ask you please consult the Chautauqua Daily newspaper for details about the outstanding and varied programs of the Department of Religion in addition to these interfaith lectures Monday through Thursday at 2 p.m. I want to highlight our Chautauqua Dialogues discussion groups, Mystic Heart Meditation, Courageous Conversations on Death and Dying, Labyrinth Walk, Peace Pole, Healing Services, and all the programs of our amazing 22 denominational houses and religious organizations. As you may know, there is a moderated Q&A following today's discussion, which I'll be doing, followed by a meet and greet at the Hall of Missions to my left. Please submit your questions now or later via questions.chq.org or on an old-fashioned slip of paper. To our ushers, we'll be giving them out at the conclusion of the lecture. The nearest restrooms, which you may know, are right there underneath the Hall of Philosophy on the Cookman Avenue side, and assistive listening devices are available. For any other additional accommodations, do please let us know through the ushers' excellent work. Finally, please silence your cell phones and no flash photography if you know how to do that with your cell phone. I'm not sure I do, but that's a good thing. For those joining us via Chautauqua's YouTube channel, thank you. To view live captions during today's lecture, visit captions.chq.org on any internet-connected mobile device. Our religion theme for the week is the creative spirit, art, resilience, and the soulful work of making. Within that overall theme of Week 5, which you've probably already memorized, art and artists against the odds. Today, we are very honored and pleased to have with us Michael Strautmanis. Michael Strautmanis serves as the Obama Foundation's Chief Corporate Affairs Officer, building its strategy to extend President and Mrs. Obama's legacy through the development of the Obama Presidential Center and civic engagement programming in Chicago. Who saw that live on YouTube? That was amazing. Woo. Wish I was there in person, but I was somewhere else, and that somewhere else is here. Through community affairs, government relations, strategic partnerships, and digital storytelling, Mike has built the Foundation's impact agenda in Chicago to create an anchor institution that will catalyze economic renewal on the south side of Chicago and develop the city's next generation of leaders. In this role, he's in dialogue with Chicagoans from every walk of life who are looking to learn more about the Obama Presidential Center and participate in the Foundation's mission to empower leaders to give back to their communities. He also leads the My Brother's Keeper Alliance, President Obama's signature initiative to create safe, healthy, and nurturing communities for boys and young men of color across the nation. I remember when that was launched. It was wonderful. And please remember that before joining the Obama Foundation, he spent over a decade in Washington, D.C., working to increase access to economic opportunity, strengthen the judicial system, and champion equity and inclusion in the White House, federal agencies, and Congress. He served in the Obama White House for 4 of those years as chief of staff to the Senior Advisor, Valerie Jarrett, in the Office of Public Engagement and Intergovernmental Affairs. Love to have her here as well. After President Obama's first term, he joined the Walt Disney Company, where he led an enterprise-wide initiative to consolidate, focus, and deepen the impact of Disney's corporate social responsibility programs. Mike began his career in government working in the Office of General Counsel of the U.S. Agency for International Development. He did stints at the House of Representatives and American Association for Justice before joining then Senator Obama's congressional staff, campaign, and subsequent transition team. An active member of Chicago's civic community, Michael serves on the boards of Everside Health, the Emerald South Economic Development Collaborative, the Billie Jean King Leadership Institute, the Illinois Finance Authority, Interfaith America, and Headspace Health. I got a shout out for Interfaith. Mike received his bachelor's degree from the University of Illinois and a JD from the University of Illinois College of Law. Today's conversation is made possible by the generous support of the Joan Brown Campbell Department of Religion Endowment. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Mike Strautmanis.
Robert, thank you. He did say it was going to be long, and it was. Thank you for that introduction. Thank you for having me here. Wow. Chautauqua, this is, I had the same feeling when I was asked, thank you for everybody who watched the dedication ceremony of the Obama Center. This time last year, I was asked to lead a cross-departmental team to create that ceremony, and at a certain point, I had the same feeling that I had right here when I arrived and saw this magnificent place, which is, we're going to need a bigger boat. I really arrived yesterday and thought that I needed to sort of shift what I was going to be talking about today, and in a moment of almost panic, I decided to engage in the spiritual practice, the ancient spiritual practice of golf. After about an hour and a half at the Chautauqua golf course, all of a sudden everything sort of settled into place. And I realized that, the only thing I had to bring was myself. and that I had to accept whatever Providence would bring with me at the time. I know Valerie Jarrett right now somewhere is thinking to herself, another golf story. Fantastic. She spends a lot of time with President Obama and thus spends a lot of time hearing golf stories. It is quite an ask to come here and offer some thoughts on the themes of art and resilience and the soulful work of creativity. This institution that provides itself on the advancement of individual education. It tells us that history, that this place was created for the benefit of the people who might come here. Healthy recreation, learning, self-improvement. This was all an idea that came about near the end of the 1800s, when the people who lived in this country were experiencing something new. Leisure time. A little bit of extra money and a little bit of extra time. And the founders of this institution decided that they would create a place for that purpose. A place, what we might call today social infrastructure, or a third space that is truly designed for community and for gathering. At the same time, leaders in my hometown of Chicago had accepted the opportunity to create a World's Fair. And they asked the landscape architects of Olmsted and Vaugh to create a space along those same lines for that same purpose. In these crowded urban environments, a park for recreation, for learning, for innovation. And in that park known as Jackson Park, Chicago held the Columbian Exposition. I now work on that site. That is the site of the Obama Presidential Center. A third space, a place that is created to bring people together across difference, for fun, recreation, learning, self-improvement. At the Obama Foundation, we like to call that spirit of innovation by just a very simple phrase. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. So I will give you the point of my speech right away. You gotta come to the Obama Presidential Center. This is gonna be a 40-minute commercial. You need tickets to come to the Presidential Center. All right, well then I'll give you the second point. Most of what's amazing about the Presidential Center is free, and you don't need a ticket. And I'm gonna explain that for you. So, as you can imagine, I've been there for a while. 10 years I've been at the Obama Foundation as a part of the planning for the creation of this center. And I have to admit to you, after a while, I got it. You know, my wife is a trained architect, and she loves this saying, see beautiful, feel beautiful. And that's why this place is so important, right? This is why you come here again and again, because you feel better here. And that is because it is beautiful. But I learned something last month when we opened the center. It actually isn't just the buildings and the park and the art that makes the Obama Presidential Center a special place. It's the people. I had seen the designs. I had walked during the construction site. I walked around it the day before it was open. I was so excited. And then, and you heard, I worked at Disney, so forgive me, the pixie dust arrived. The magic arrived as people started to come and make it their own. So on any morning, at dawn on the plaza, the John Lewis Robert Plaza of the Obama Presidential Center, you will see black dads gathering to practice yoga. It's not our program. We didn't ask them to do that. They have come and they've made it their own. I was just there over the weekend, and I saw at least 10 different colored T-shirts of family reunions all around the park, the restaurant, and the plaza. If you look at social media, as unfortunately or sometimes fortunately I do, you will find stories of children meeting each other from different countries on the playground at the Presidential Center. And I don't want us to overlook, as we think about art, just how important it is that the beauty that we see and those experiences that we have, they help us and are necessary, I believe, to dream and envision and work for a better future. Art is essential to democracy because democracy is based on the idea that everyone has the opportunity, the responsibility to come together to create the world that they want to see. And in order to do that, you've got to be inspired. You've got to be inspired to dream outside of your circumstances and to envision that better world. But I think sometimes even I fall into a little bit of a trap in thinking about art and being an artist in a very narrow way. It's a well-beloved book that has impacted so many people, and it really changed my life. It's called The Artist's Way. It's by an author, Julia Cameron. And in that book, she writes that those who speak in spiritual terms routinely refer to God as creator, but seldom see creator as the literal term for artists. And she suggests that we take the term creator quite literally. We are made in the image of God. And if we are made in the image of God, if we are image bearers, then we are creators. And we have that spark inside of us. Indeed, the story of Genesis tells us that that was our first task in the garden: to cultivate, to create, to nurture and build the world that God bestowed upon us. And so I believe that there is that spark inside of all of us, that desire to build and create a world that is different than the one that we live in today. I met Barack Obama when we were both pretty young. I was a college student in Chicago, and I had a dream of going to law school, but was totally petrified about being successful because the only lawyers I knew were on TV. Truly, it was Denzel Washington at LA Law, or Blair Underwood, who I thought, oh, yeah, maybe I could do that. Hard to be what you can't see. And I talked my way into a job, and I met this spectacular young lawyer named Michelle Robinson. And she saw something in me that I did not quite see in myself. And I sort of latched onto her and her fiance. And after some time, as you heard, in Washington, D.C., I found myself working for Senator Barack Obama. And he had been invited to participate in the commemoration of the Selma to Montgomery marches, and asked to speak at the historic Brown Chapel, the place where those marchers came and gathered and fortified themselves for the work ahead. So we flew commercial to Alabama, got in the car and drove to Selma. And I started to experience something that, as you can imagine, sort of threw me for a loop, because I'd known this guy for a long time. As we were driving, all of a sudden, I kind of couldn't see the road anymore. And as we got closer, I realized that it was because it was full of people. There were crowds outside of the chapel. Those who couldn't get in, speakers were set up on the outside. You couldn't even get onto the block, much less onto the driveway. And as we piled out of the car and I found myself in the lead to try to get there, I had one profound thought. We have to get better security. Why am I in this position? I am not trained for this. He's still around, so we made it. We made our way through and into that chapel, and he gave a talk and spoke to the Joshua generation that he wanted to embody and represent, those who were going to see the promised land. A few years later, he was back at Selma. He had Secret Service protection. I wasn't even working at the White House at the time. I was moved my family to Los Angeles. And I had come back and was invited back as he commemorated the 50th anniversary of the Selma to Montgomery marches. And I sat there with tears in my eyes as I just thought about the moment that it all represented. All the fears that I'd had as a staff person at the White House, whether he would be successful, whether he would be reelected, whether we could live up to the promise and the sacrifices of all of those who had made that moment possible, who had put blood, sweat, and tears on the line. And John Lewis introduced him and turned around, and one of the best pictures that I love this picture every time I see it is he's sort of hugging President Obama after the introduction. His face is sort of in his chest as he is almost collapsed in tears, the weight of the moment. And there, President Obama spoke these words. "You are America," he said, "unconstrained by habit and convention, unencumbered by what is, ready to seize what ought to be. For everywhere in this country there are first steps to be taken, there is new ground to cover. There are more bridges to be crossed. America is not the project of any one person. The single most powerful word in our democracy is the word we. We the people. We shall overcome. Yes, we can. That word is owned by no one. It belongs to everyone. Oh, what a glorious task we are given to continually try to improve this great nation of ours." Second commercial to come visit the Obama Presidential Center. You ready? Those words that I just read, each letter is in 5 feet of concrete on the outside of the tower of the museum of the Presidential Center. We call that piece of public art, "You Are America." And it is a bold statement, the power of words to inspire, to change us, to pull people together. And I guess I come here today as I think about the Obama Presidential Center, the decision to create not one, but 28 original commissions of public art, the decision to create 18 acres of parkland, an athletic center, a playground, a fruit and vegetable garden, a recording studio, and more. I guess the question is why? Why? Former president? Could be easier to just take your papers. Well, I would work there. I guess most of them were emails, so it's not even papers. Put them in a library and move on. Why go through the expense and trouble of having this third space, of creating a place for gathering? Well, it is because of the mission of the Obama Foundation. We exist to continue the Obama legacy. He did not build the Presidential Center as a mausoleum to look backward. This is not about nostalgia. As he said, and you heard him say at his dedication ceremony, looking back to some imagined past. This is about the opportunity that we have that is reflected in the words on the outside of the museum. The opportunity, nay, the responsibility of people to build and create our future. And this is a place that is about that mission. And so that is why the art. That is why the creativity. That is why the third space built for gathering. And so we have broken this down as we've talked about why we're doing and what you're going to experience there. And the first thing I hope you experience there is inspiration. We hope that you will be inspired and to understand that the circumstances of our time do not define us. That the place like Chautauqua that we are here today is here because somebody decided that they would carve this out of a wilderness. People who did not know you. People who did not know you would gather here. People who might not have known if anybody would gather here decided that they wanted to come together and build and create something. That inspiration was important then. It was important in 2006 when Barack Obama told me, and I held my peace and did not tell him what I thought of his chances, that he wanted to run to become president of the United States. And it's just as important today. And it's woven into the design of the center. There are two words, and I got a chance to interview the architects in a conversation that we had when we opened the center. There are two words that they told me they were focused on. Todd Williams and Billy Chen thought about these two words in the design of the Obama Presidential Center. One was enable. They wanted to be a place that activated its visitors. You know, I was there when there was the RFP. And as you can imagine, it was incredible to sit there and read the submissions from these incredible architects vying to have the opportunity to design the Obama Presidential Center. There was only one thing that was different about the design that Todd Williams and Billy Chen created that lasted throughout the design process. Everyone created a building. Todd and Billy created a campus. A campus that enabled people. Think about what happens here in Chautauqua as you walk around, as you sit on your different colored benches. I still haven't quite figured out which is the chatty bench and which is the wait for the little shuttle bench, but I'll get it straight. I'll get it straight. Because sometimes I want to chat and sometimes I just want to get on the shuttle. The people who live here, the park, the lake, right? A campus built to pull people together in the built environment and in nature. And they also use the word ennoble. Enable and ennoble. And as you arrive and you're going to drive down Stony Island and you will see that tower, I think you will understand that they wanted to create something to denote the importance of this country choosing to elect its first black president. So, that's my bet. That's my promise to you. I think the Obama Presidential Center will inspire you. And I think it will inspire all of our visitors to think about their role in our civic life. But we don't just think about inspiring people. We also have to connect. Right? We also have to bring people together. And I've been watching you here at Chautauqua. I've been watching you say hello to people as you pass by the street. I've been watching you chat on your chatty benches. I think they're red. That's the evidence that I have been delivering. I've been watching you over meals, on porches, connect with each other. And the Obama Presidential Center is designed to connect. And the art of the Presidential Center, with art as almost the purest expression of that creativity that I spoke of earlier. It's designed to pull you into a conversation. That conversation might make you feel seen, known, that conversation might make you feel really uncomfortable and have you think about truths that you might rather ignore in that moment. And the idea behind the art, because I want to talk to you about the artists that we brought into creating some of these original commissions, is based on this concept of pluralism. You know, my friend, we just got a shout out for Interfaith America. By the way, just a note, when your friend decides to start and become the CEO of an organization, you're either going to end up as a donor or a board member or both. Just fair warning. I'm a board member right now. He talks about pluralism in a really simple way. He talks about America as a potluck dinner. A potluck dinner in which all of us bring our stories, our traditions, and we put them on the table, and we make room for others that are there. We don't leave our traditions, our stories, our beliefs behind. Indeed, it is those traditions and those faiths and those stories that makes a potluck dinner so awesome. It is the essential ingredient of our democracy. It's part of who we are. It helps shape our future. And we brought that potluck philosophy into the art that you'll find on the south side of Chicago in Jackson Park. You'll find a piece, as you heard me evoke John Lewis, so many spaces that we have are named after those on whose shoulders we stand. And we have a sculpture donated by the alumni of the presidential campaign in the White House that is there to honor Ann Dunham, the mother of Barack Obama. It's created by the incredible Maya Lin. And it's called Seeing Through the Universe. It's a sculpture that mists, and it has a small stone platform where the water collects and people play with it. And I had a chance to see Barack bring his sister to just spend some time there. And he remarked about how much his mother would have loved to watch children play in the water that's there. Maya said that there's something so powerful about a very still flowing use of water, so that when you touch the water, you change it. To her, the art doesn't stop when she makes her piece. To her, the art actually begins when people start engaging with it. We don't just have Maya Lin. We have member of the Seneca Nation artist Marie Watt. And she has collaborated with Nick Cave, the Black artists, to create something called This Land, Shared Sky. It incorporates these mirrored compositional elements that celebrates the idea of community and sound, celebrates them literally and figuratively. Marie Watt recounted that one of her inspirations was the piece was Marvin Gaye's What's Going On. And the idea of twinning language, that repetition of words that our religious traditions know so well. Call and response. She said, historically, at least for Native communities, our work has been positioned in anthropology, museums, and collections and shown in a way that doesn't reflect the innovation, dynamism, evolution, and change that is inherent to being creative, remarked Marie. She continued, I think it's important to have work at the Obama Presidential Center and reach a broader audience. I mean, the work has always existed, right? It's just that the doors haven't always been open. We also have an original art commission from Mark Bradford called The City of Big Shoulders. It is an enormous art piece that spans 3 to 4 stories inside of the Obama Presidential Center. Every story, you kind of see it and you look at it and experience it a different way. Mark said that he uses material that has memory, that has lived in the world. He remarks that often studio art is a very solitary thing. It's very private, and then you push that art in the world. And he likes to drag the world into the studio and wrestles with it, he said. City of Big Shoulders is about Chicago, how it was a really tough city, how people there get to work and get it done. He said he always loved maps and the history of how people occupy space and how the memories still cling to those spaces. City of Big Shoulders is a literal timetable, when you look at it, of the Great Migration. So it is the opportunity to bring this sculptor, Maya Lin, who has created the most timeless pieces of art, perhaps, in our nation's history. This native and South Side artists coming together to create something about time and meaning that speaks back to you. Mark Bradford bringing his story into a piece that marks the history of the Great Migration that led people to the very park that the Presidential Center sits in today. We need all of those stories to create the inspiration and the connection that is necessary for the Obama Foundation to fulfill its mission. And we need people to come and bring their stories to that, have a dialogue with it, be changed by it, and change us along the way. That invitation to participate, it can change the trajectory of one's life. After we opened the Presidential Center grand opening, the next weekend we threw open the doors and invited everyone in. And I was on the plaza just awkwardly introducing myself to everyone. People just wanted to come and just, be with their family, and all of a sudden they've got me, hey, welcome, how are you? I was chatting with a woman and her friend, and they had 2 boys that were about 6 or 7 years old. And these 2 boys, they just refused to let the old folks talk, right? Kids like that. They just demanded to be seen. And so finally, I bent down and knelt down and spoke to one of them, and they settled in, and they're 2 friends, and they were looking right at me. And I saw that they had a sticker that we give the children who come visit the Presidential Center. That sticker says, future president. And so I saw the sticker and I said, like some adult would, well, did you get a chance to go visit the Oval Office? Yeah. And did you get a chance to sit in the chair? And yeah. What do you think? How did it feel? I said. Could you imagine yourself as president? And they sighed and looked at each other, and I said, one of us is going to be president and the other one is going to be his vice president, but we haven't decided which one. I promise you, that is not how most young black kids, who they were, in Chicago thought. The Roosevelts probably thought that way. Kennedys probably thought that way. We are changing the trajectory of the expectations of what's normal. Finally, I want to talk to you about the work that happens that's inspired by the space that we've created, by the intentional, meaningful decision to connect people through beauty, through art, through creativity. And that's our programming. President and Mrs. Obama, they want to inspire, empower, and connect the next generation of civic leaders. And I know I'm talking about what some might call the serious part. All right, we're talking about the programming now. But Barack and Michelle Obama have taught me you got to have joy in your work. From joy comes grace. If you aren't happy about the task ahead, it's hard to offer grace in the work to your opponents, to those who are in the way or those who are on the sidelines. And so we want joy in the work that we do. My very first community meeting that I held, when we started the conversation about bringing the Presidential Center to Chicago, it opened with the Leo High School marching band. I'm like, I know you're coming to an angry community meeting, but I'm gonna force you to be happy with these students performing in your midst. And we've continued that. So when you arrive, there is a playground. There is the Eleanor Roosevelt fruit and vegetable garden. There is a recording studio. There is a branch of the Chicago Public Library at the Presidential Center. Because joy and meaning and learning and creativity, they come together. And plus, we don't want people dragged, kids dragged, where you gotta go? Well, Mom, we got a field trip today. We gotta go to the Obama Presidential Center. We want them to have fun. And these leaders that we are training, I want you to know some of them because they are civic leaders in the arts. I'll just introduce a few of them. We work across sectors. We have people who are in parliament and legislature in Europe. We have people working on corruption in Africa and health in the Appalachian Mountains. We have trained at this point almost 1,000 young civic leaders around the world. Asia, Europe, Africa, right here at home. I just want to share the stories of 3 of them. Neil McNeil. She was in our scholars program through the University of Chicago, and she is the associate director of production and runs arts and public life at the university. She's also the executive director of Definition Theater, a Black-owned, Black-run theater company in Chicago's Woodlawn neighborhood, which is the neighborhood of the Obama Presidential Center. There, they expand perspectives, steward resources, and bridge the immense possibility found at the intersection of art, innovation, and education. Nil is working to build a third space, a theater, its own theater on the south side of Chicago that will include a community center and a business incubator in that neighborhood to provide professional career development opportunities for the next generation of artists and entrepreneurs in that community. Legacy Russell is in New York, trained by our program, who runs The Kitchen. It showcases emerging and experimental artists through public programming, exhibition, and live performances. And Chris Burton, out of Richmond, Virginia, is the director of the Leadership Institute at the Union Presbyterian Cemetery. There, Chris runs a continuing education program with the prison ministry for incarcerated youth to develop their leadership skills and prepare them for successful reentry into society. He worked with the nearby Henderson School to create the Remix Project, the hip-hop education course aimed at fostering emotional development to middle school students. Now, what do we train these leaders in? Values. We call our values hope to action. And that is really the work of the Obama Foundation. We start with hope. That inspiration, that idea, sparked by creativity, sparked by beauty, sparked by anger at the world that we want to see but don't yet live in today. But we don't want people to just stay in hope. We got to move to action. And so we work across countries, across language, across disciplines, across perspectives to build that. So, how do we get involved? Us, everyday people, what do we do? With the world as we see it, with so much around us, lulling us and dulling us into inaction. I was just lost on my phone back in the green room. Do you know they call this thing the green room? It's green. But it's this giant sucking sound, right? And in our social media, the lesson that we learn inexorably every day is there's really nothing for you to do. The problems are way too big. Somebody might get angry at me, and I have to participate in that hostile world. The world is dangerous. The problems are too large. Maybe I should just like this, forward this, show people what I believe in as I get pulled inexorably into my own small ecosystem. A small world. I think we come here. I think we go to the Obama Presidential Center. I think we get out and we connect with people and work on issues. And I understand that that can be very hard today. I understand if you share the values of President Obama and the Obama Foundation that you might think that we are on the side that is facing too much opposition, too many obstacles. And if you think that way, I have another piece of art for you. And I want you to come and see it. And yes, it's in the John Lewis Plaza on the Obama Presidential Center. It's by Martin Poirier. It's called Bending the Arc. Now, I know you may have heard Barack Obama evoke this phrase about the arc of the moral universe. But at the dedication ceremony, he took us back in time and reminded us where that phrase came from. It came from a Boston minister who spoke it about 170 years ago in a sermon at a time of great despair. He was an abolitionist. And the cause of abolition to those who sat in his hearing was lost. A young fugitive slave had just been snatched out of Boston and marched by officers to the war to be placed back into enslavement. And he looked out at his congregation and he spoke these words: "We do not see that justice is always done on earth. Many a knave is rich, sleek, and honored, while the just man is poor, hated, and in torment. I do not pretend to understand the moral universe, Theodore Parker said. The arc is a long one. My eye reaches but little ways. I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by the experience of sight. I can divine it by conscience, but from what I see, I am sure it bends towards justice. There are no easy answers in the world we see today. But I believe there is only one choice. That is to be inspired. That is to have hope. That is to find and experience things that stir the soul. That is to invest in art. That is to see the divine in your world and in yourself. And to find others in a potluck nation, not asking them to place their beliefs on the side and only believe what you believe and see the world that you see, but with shared values and a spirit that invokes the very walls and the columns that we stand in today, that we do the work to create a better tomorrow. And if you need a little inspiration, come see us in Chicago. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael Strautmanis.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
As we transition to Q&A, you can submit questions online through questions.chq.org. Or if you'd like to submit a written question, just raise your hand, and one of our ushers will bring, or religious department staff will bring you a piece of paper and a pencil. And as you head to your next location, be sure to keep your conversations light so we can head into Q&A. So we've already got a couple questions that have come through in the portal. How important was faith in the Obama's life? I ask in part because a favorite preacher at Chautauqua is the pastor of their former church, Trinity UCC, Otis Moss.
We love Otis Moss.
Join the crowd.
Otis Moss has helped me spiritually in many ways. One of them is through his witness and his sermons. The other is he showed me how to listen to NBA games on the radio. You know, the Obamas taught me something very important. And it was reflected in one of the first speeches, major national speeches I ever worked with President Obama on, which Robert will remember, was at Sojourners.
Yeah, wow.
When he was a U.S. Senator. And it was a speech that brought together these two parts of what has become very important to me. The first is that his morality, his ethics, come from his faith. And, you know, he describes his faith journey, and I think of mine very much the same way, you know. Neither of us, like, fell out in church or got struck by lightning. It was this gradual sense, and finally this reality that is just true for me, that is hard for me to explain to anyone else, that I am known, and that I am here for a purpose, and that I am not God, that I am part of something bigger, a longer journey. But then both of us were in public office, and we made this choice which we think is important to a pluralistic democracy. And that is that I am not going to offer my policy prescriptions, my points of focus at the presidential center, and tell you that you should do what I want you to do because God told me. In a pluralistic democracy, we have to, as President Obama always showed me, use our common language in the public square and allow debate. If God told me to do something, then there is no debate that you can have with me on it, right? But in our public square, we have to position our desires and our positions in a way that allow for debate and allow for disagreement. Because it is that debate and that disagreement, I believe, that creates the opportunity for change and for community. And so it was very interesting over the years that I got to know them both, watching them participate in a private faith life and then translate that into a very public life, and then, frankly, use their private faith life to sustain them through that intense experience.
Wonderful. I have heard that you're a Lutheran. Are the rumors true?
I'm either a former Lutheran or a lapsed Lutheran. I was raised Lutheran, and there we go. See, that's Lutherans. They're just not going to make a bunch of noise about it. Yeah. And then it was really my wife, actually my girlfriend at the time, we were dating in college, that she grew up in Champaign, Illinois, where I went to school, and her family attended, some of them, kind of a classic Black Baptist church. And so now she and I are members of Soul City Church, which is one of those very, I didn't even want to go when I first, because I was like, there's no cross. Thought we were going to church. Soul City Church in Chicago, which is, one of those non-denominational places. And I'm actually, this was not in I don't know if this is in my bio. You read so many things. There's one more thing. So my wife is like, "You're joining one more thing?" Yes. I'm an elder at Soul City, and I thought being an elder would get me more respect at home, and it doesn't.
I love it. How will you attract to the center people who did not support President Obama or who have become cynical in this age of grievance? Do you worry that you'll be preaching primarily to the choir?
I do worry that we'll be preaching primarily to the choir, actually. I think that, first, the Obama Foundation is strictly and pretty intensely nonpartisan and non-political. And we work very, very hard to, I think, the dismay of some of our supporters to stay there. And that is because, to put it simply, I think, from President Obama's perspective, been there, done that, right? Served 2 terms as President of the United States and wants to be about a new task. And that task is, as I said, to inspire a new generation of leaders. And if we are only inviting and inspiring those who agreed with him, frankly, in a somewhat rapidly receding past, then how is this place going to be relevant today, tomorrow, or in the future? And so it's very important to us to have people who may not have supported him as president or may have been very angry at things that he did as president, even if they did support him, arrive and participate in the experience of the center. The first document that you see when you come to the Presidential Center is not Barack Obama's birth certificate. I couldn't help it. Or his baby shoes, but the Declaration of Independence. And the petition of Native Americans to their government to be included, and then the petition of women to be included. And that dialogue, we think, is American. And it's not about, frankly, Democrats or the 2 terms of Barack Obama. It's about something larger than that, and it was that larger thing that got him involved in public life in the first place. And that is what he wants to be about in his post-presidency. And so for those who are skeptical or cynical, my only ask is to give it a shot. And again, to give it a shot, you don't need to buy a ticket. You don't need to give us any money. Although I bet you will when you go there, and the gift store is open. I did work at Disney. Disney knows how to get your money, man.
What part of the Obama Presidential Center is free? What part is there a charge for? And when will Michelle run for president?
Well, I'll answer the first question last. The last question first, which is my prediction is never. And I think that I remember very distinctly, because I was around during that time, that of the two members of the Obama family, there was only one of them that had any enthusiasm for politics, and that was before the U.S. Senate and 2 terms as president. So I can imagine that her experience might have only confirmed her lack of enthusiasm to participate in politics. There's only one part of the Presidential Center that requires a timed ticket and is charged, and that is the experience of the museum. And that is primarily because it has limited space in it, and we want our guests, all of you, to have a good experience while you're there. And so we have limited the tickets. We actually limited them more at the beginning because we frankly hadn't run the Obama Presidential Center before, and we wanted to be pretty conservative, but we have experienced the demand that I experienced just now at the beginning of this talk, and we are expanding and releasing more tickets. And so that is the experience that requires a ticket. The things that don't require a ticket: enjoying about 18 acres of park, that is connected to an amazing museum, the Griffin Museum of Science and Industry in Jackson Park. Picnic tables, grills. We have our own beehive. I don't know if you want to experience that, but it's there. We have a fruit and vegetable garden, evoking the working garden. It's run and sponsored by our partners, the Chicago Botanic Gardens. We have young people there every single day in free programming run by other partners. We have an athletic center, gymnasium. We have an amazing, super cool playground. I literally try to walk by the playground every single day just because I love it so much. We have the plaza, and within everything that I described are these 28 pieces of public art that are everywhere, illuminating the experience. And then we have what is truly, I will say, my favorite part of the Presidential Center, and that is the branch of the public library. And within it, we have a maker's studio. So we're just launching the Makers program for young people. We launched it yesterday. And so I was so excited to be here and, go out and experience failure at the golf course. But I was a little bummed because I really wanted to see the first young people see and experience the creativity. And I think it unlocked that divine spark within them in the Maker Studio at the Public Library branch. I've heard this is summer camp for NPR listeners, so I'm gonna go super geeky. Within the public library at the Presidential Center, we have the Barack Obama reading room, the presidential reading room, and in it are hundreds of works specifically chosen by him and Michelle Obama. It is a non-circulating collection, and so people just come in there and sit and read and experience some of the great books and written and poems and plays and art of our time. It is, I think, almost a sacred place, and I love it there. But I can't stay there too long because I have a little badge and I'm like supposed to be working.
I learned to play golf in Jackson Park, so
Yeah, there you go.
it's a great place. You have surely noticed Chautauqua is a place for both the young and the old. You have discussed a direct service to the young and the Obama Center. In what ways are you thinking about activating the 60-plus crowd?
Yeah, so the 60-plus crowd is loving it. We have a walking club that arrives every day. They love the garden. They are docents, they are welcomers, they are the people who just literally welcome everyone into the space. We have so many of them that are working here at the Presidential Center and volunteering at the Presidential Center. My mother, one of the last things that she did after she retired from the Chicago Public Schools was a gardener at the aquarium in Chicago, and she absolutely loved it. And so I have so much fun watching the seniors in our community offer so much. I also have the privilege of teaching a class just down the street at the University of Chicago. They have a program there that is about people who are, a lot of them are retirees, and they want to have purpose and meaning and create a social impact initiative. And they come there for 6 months, and I talk to them about civic engagement and how they can participate. And so I find the community to be very vibrant. And one of the really special things that I see all the time is mentorship happening kind of live, both in the programs that we have, but also just in our public spaces, because seniors feel incredibly welcome. Just one note on this: we are aggressively designed to be accessible. This accessibility was built into all of our design, and so there are no spaces, as I believe, on our space where people who have less mobility than others are not able to come and experience that with those who they want to experience it with, whether it be their grandkids or others in their party. And so I really enjoy watching these multiple generations experience the space.
And you've come full circle, because the University of Chicago is in part based on Chautauqua, because the founder, William Rainey Harper, had mine and Jordan's job here back in the 1880s.
I did not know that.
Nice work.
I was really proud of myself. I did so much research.
You're back. We have 8 questions in 8 minutes. Let's do this.
Okay, I got to do better.
What did it cost to create this center? And can you talk about the process of coming together with Friends of the Parks and creating the OPC in Jackson Park?
Yeah. So the cost has been enormous. Straight up, it's been over $1 billion to create this space. All of it privately financed. There are no public dollars in the creation of the Obama Presidential Center. Public dollars did go into improving the roads, which is and the streets, which is one of the things I'm proudest of. When I first arrived, that almost exclusively black community in that neighborhood lived next to a road that was dangerous and terrible. No medians, no lines, no stoplights, no stop signs, nothing. And the level of public infrastructure that we brought into that community is something that I'm very proud of. But the center itself is built and sustained by private donations. The process of coming together with Friends of the Park to create it is an interesting way to put it. But I think
it was messy there at the beginning.
It was messy at the beginning. I need to do a short version of this. I'll try. When we arrived and the idea of the Presidential Center first came, we arrived into 2 live controversies. One was the attempt to bring the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art to Chicago at the lakefront. And the other was the Olympic bid, the failed Olympic bid that Chicago had participated in. Both of them activated community activists. Both people in the neighborhood who wanted resources, were worried about gentrification, and park preservationists. And so I think I would say that I had the good fortune of working for a former community organizer who every time I would tell him what was going on, and he would just be like, yeah, but what's the noise? What are people angry about? He embraced that. There are parts of the center that are different because of that. The parking lot, just a very simple, stark one, which was going to be across the street in a park, is now underneath the center and actually has given us the topography to create a sledding hill. That happened because of the opposition from the people who lived across the street and the people who wanted more parkland rather than less. And so many of our commitments around hiring and doing business came out of the dialogue from community activists. They also forced the city to pass legislation to support people who live there, to get them resources to stay in their homes. So anyway, it was a real conversation. And you know, because I work for community organizer, you don't have to be polite to have a conversation with me. You just have to be engaged and want to build something and create something together.
Beautiful. Why is the fruit and vegetable garden named for Eleanor Roosevelt and not Michelle Obama? And is it true that your wife, the architect, is she visiting with you here now? Two spouse question.
Yeah, so my wife is not here. We didn't know. This was our first time in Chautauqua. We now know. So I promise you I'll be back, and I promise you she is not letting me come here without her.
Here.
The fruit and vegetable garden is named after Eleanor Roosevelt. Eleanor Roosevelt created the first garden at the White House, and we've had the opportunity to honor her with that space. Michelle Obama, she's like it's the Obama Presidential Center. You don't need to name the fruit and vegetable garden after me. She's got the whole thing.
She's got the whole thing. As someone who worked for so long with the Obamas, have you or they thought about the reports that large numbers of voters switched from Obama to Trump, and why?
Yeah, so I have not had this discussion with them, and you can listen to whatever public comments they've made about it to get theirs. I will not speak for them. I'll now just speak for myself. This is not a Obama Foundation position because I have thought about it. And I think a couple things that come out of my experience in public life. I think the first is that there is often, and I think very present today in our politics, a deep dissatisfaction with government and a desire for change. We talk about hope and change for a reason. The hope part was coming anyway. The change part was a very significant part of the political mood at the time, and it has continued because government and the economy, in my view, are not delivering for the vast majority of people. And there is a growing cynicism about it. I also believe that, and I talked about this when it comes to social media, I think our media system, structure, business changed in ways that we didn't realize at the time, where there was a desire to mine data and to therefore micro-target and push out messages designed to inflame and to create anger, to keep people's eyeballs locked on the screen, to be able to sell ads to them. That was the business. We all know that now, but I believe at that time we were just learning it, and the media started to participate in it and gave a lot of attention to messages that were volatile, that popped through, and that created a lot of anger and passion. So I'm sure you will have a political theorist up here that will give you a much more sophisticated answer. But those are the two trends that I've watched as I've looked back over that time.
Great. We made it to the last two. Abraham Joshua Heschel, the great 20th century rabbi, had a part of the Obama Center named after him. Yes. His daughter, Susanna Heschel, spoke here earlier this season at Chautauqua. What does this room and the Jewish community mean to the Obamas?
Oh, wow. Well, a couple things. Having been on the Obama journey for a while, I can tell you that the Jewish community, particularly in Chicago, was really embraced his candidacy very early on when he started in public life, when he ran for his first offices. And so as I look back at some of our longest standing supporters, it is members of the Chicago Jewish community that has been there with him, standing with him through some, really difficult, challenging moments throughout, and have arrived at this point with him. as well. And I think the last thing I'd say is that we take this interfaith thing seriously. There is a place, and if you look to the movements that inspired the president, that created the template for change, Heschel and those who are part of that tradition formed the backbone of it, formed some of the moral language that is used throughout and for it. And I think there needs to be a reclaiming for all of us who believe in the progressive movement towards greater inclusion, a reclaiming of that language. I think we pushed away and allowed ourselves to be pushed away from that moral clarity and that moral language. But that language and clarity moved mountains, changed the world. And one of the experiences and one of the reasons why we have named that space in that way is because we think claiming that language and claiming that as a part of our history is important. And you can't experience or understand the Obama Presidential Center without it.
Wonderful. The last one's not a question, it's a comment. We sure hope you can bring Valerie Jarrett, Michelle Obama, or Barack Obama next time you come to Chautauqua.
I can't keep this a secret? I was totally going to keep it a secret. All right.
You can meet our speaker at the Hall of Missions porch. Please join me in thanking once again Mike Strautmanis.
Thank you. This is so much fun.